What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Mafia Members Podcast. Today, we are joined by a special guest, CheeseHeadz Weekly. With that being said, we'll jump right into it.
The Mafia Members Podcast.
Where else would you rather be than right here, right now?
All right, everyone, welcome to the show. As always, we shout out Joneson for Sports for the intro music. And today we are joined live with Landry from CheeseHeadz Weekly. So, Landry, introduce yourself. Tell us where what you're up to and where we can find you and all that good stuff.
Yeah, man. It's great to be here. CheeseHeadz Weekly. The show is available on basically all the major audio platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I try to do a weekly episode of the podcast. Been going at it for over a year now and having a lot of fun doing it. Also available in video form on YouTube at CheeseHeadz_weekly. Sure to check me out there. Hit that subscribe button. Would be much appreciated. And of course, you can find me here on X at CheeseHeadz_W. And anywhere else, other social media like Instagram at CheeseHeadz_weekly.
Right on. For me, I have all the social medias, but I'm not as active on like TikTok and Instagram. So which one are you most active on?
I'm most active probably on X. After that, it would be Instagram, and occasionally I'll post, some short clips on TikTok, but definitely that's not my main
Not the
my main platform by any means. Yeah.
Okay, so right on. So I've kind of developed a little kind of segment or how these kind of lives run. So we'll go through each team, we'll do their off seasons, and then I have my standing on business segment, and that's kind of where we'll get into some into some of the more controversial topics, I guess, or at least discussion type questions. And like Big Draft Energy says there, everybody smash the likes. It's greatly appreciated. Happy to have all you guys in here. So with that being said, we will get into it. And the first question for you there, Landry, is so how do you think your off season is going? Like, you obviously lost Aaron Jones to a rival team, or a division rival team, I should say. So is that kind of like the biggest news, or kind of how do you see the whole offseason for you guys so far?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I don't think it's been a bad offseason by any stretch. Certainly losing Aaron Jones does hurt a little bit, does sting, but I don't I guess I'm not putting too much stock in it. I kind of trust the Packers front office, with the moves they've made in the past. I very much, kind of trust their judgment at this point. And I think it's fantastic to have kind of that good, well-run franchise. And so that's certainly, Aaron Jones has always been kind of that fan favorite guy in Green Bay. And for sure, one of my favorite players, really, really have a lot of respect for the guy. I really loved watching him play. Um,
Yeah, he
loved,
seemed like he was like a really good like leader on the field as well. Like
exactly.
I
Yep.
saw a clip of him there today where I don't know the play, I don't know the game, but the guy tried to like reach for a first down and he fumbled it, and he was kind of walking off the sideline with his heads down, and Aaron
Yep.
Jones was there and like literally picked his head up and told him like, it's going to be okay, kind of thing. So
Yeah, that's the
um,
classic Aaron Jones right there,
yeah,
just um yeah, very very much a team player, very great for the locker room. So,
yeah,
yeah, it absolutely stings, to lose him. But we brought in Josh Jacobs. We brought in, fan, you know, uh did what the fans wanted in bringing in Xavier McKinney there at safety. Um And so I think those two moves, were really kind of what defined the offseason. I would have absolutely liked to be able to keep Aaron Jones, but in the end, it didn't work out. So, we'll move on. And hopefully, Josh Jacobs can kind of have a bounce back season. McKinney can do what we want him to do. And yeah, everyone else can just, kind of elevate their play from where we were last season. And yeah,
yeah, exactly. And
go from
like
there.
Big Draft Energy had mentioned there, shout out Big Draft Energy, another Ottawa podcaster. But he said you guys lost David Bakhtiari as well. So which one do you think is
Yes,
a
sir.
bigger loss, Aaron Jones or the Bakhtiari?
Well, I mean, Bach is absolutely a big loss. And um, really, the thing is, he's been struggling for, multiple seasons now with that knee. And that's what really complicated things. And the reason that Green Bay was not able to retain him. Now, uh, I think right now, I would say Aaron Jones is the biggest loss. But I mean, that's really only because we've done without Bakhtiari for, the past couple seasons already, dealing with that knee injury. And, we fared okay. Certainly it's still a big loss. He was that, rock solid, top 5 tackle in the league whenever he was in there. And that's obviously great to have, protecting your blind side. And that would have been great for Jordan Love, but he's getting older. Certainly, yeah, definitely not getting any younger. Yeah, exactly what Hot Take City said there is kind of really what sums it up.
And it's the same thing for the Bills, where everyone's saying it's gonna be a huge loss that we lost Tre'Davious White and Micah Hyde
Hmm.
and Jordan Poyer. But really, those guys were never on the field all at the same time. You'd get 1 or 2 games out of one of them. Trey White was out of the lineup for the better part of the past 3 seasons anyways. So
Yeah,
it's yeah, it hurts to lose those guys because they're great players when they're in, but they're so rarely in that it might not affect you as much as the people will have you say it is.
yeah, 100%. And I think the Packers have done a really great job at kind of piecing it together a little bit. And so, um, yeah,
Yeah,
it's been
yeah,
great to see how they've been able to work together as a team that way. And other guys have stepped up. It's kind of that next man up mentality, and I think they've done a great job doing that.
yeah. Awesome. So your first round draft pick was a tackle. Is that, I guess that's the plan to replace Bakhtiari is with the rookie, or
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly part of the plan. I think Rasheed Walker was our main guy there at left tackle for the majority of last season. I think he did a good job. Um, kind of got better as the season went on, and um, yeah, um, it's tough to know. I think really what the Packers are looking for is just to get through training camp here and kind of figure out who that best 5 is. And
Mhm.
Jordan Morgan, and the guy that they did select in the first round, kind of has some positional versatility, which the Packers like on the offensive line. And so um, it's possible he doesn't even start right away. He is more of a developmental prospect, but um, I think it's going to be a good conversation, or sorry, competition during camp. And certainly a conversation that we'll be having as we go through training camp. But I think right now it's Walker's spot to lose, and I think Morgan will be a fantastic swing tackle. But you know, we'll see what happens, and you know,
Mhm, mhm.
kind of go with who's the best, I guess, coming out of
Yeah,
camp.
yeah, it's not a bad problem to have when you're just picking from whoever's the best. You know what I mean? Like that.
Yeah, for sure.
So, what would you give? What if you had to give a draft, Dre? What would you give the Packers for their drafting this year?
Yeah, well, when I did do an episode fairly recently, or I guess pretty soon after the draft, at least, it's been a little bit, but I kind of graded each player, but my overall grade was a B plus. Certainly, some people weren't a huge fan of the Jordan Morgan pick, and were hoping for a safety, some secondary help there, perhaps. But Cooper DeJean was kind of that fan favorite to be picked. I wasn't, extremely bullish on him as we kind of got along later in the process. But overall, I was not overly just completely upset like some were about their first round pick. And I think very much on day two, they had a fantastic day two, picking Edgerrin Cooper, the linebacker, Javon Bullard at safety. Both of those project to be day one starters at those respective positions. And then, got some running back depth in Marshawn Lloyd and also another linebacker in Tyron Hopper, and picked some other safeties. I got them in there as well. Got some more safety depth as they, try to remake that room. So overall, I think it was a very solid draft. Not a ton of really flashy picks, I guess, but I think it was a very solid draft, and I'm excited to see what happens here this year.
Yeah, right on. Sorry, Cheese Talk Pod. Shout out Cheese Talk Pod. He chimes in there with Marshawn Lloyd is going to be a stud, and I think that's kind of what all of Packer Nation is kind of hoping for. I
For
know
sure.
that the safety you guys drafted, Javon Bullard, he was high on Bill's Mafia as well, especially losing the two safeties that we lost this year. We were expecting to hopefully get him, I think, but we ended up going with Cole Bishop, but
Hmm.
I think he's going to be a dog as well.
Oh, for
Quickly,
sure.
we'll just answer Big Draft Energy's question here. So, who's the wide receiver one in Cheesehead City? A potentially healthy Watson, Reed, Dubs? Are we buying Wicks hype?
Yeah, very fair question. Good question there. That's the question really everyone has been asking, outside of Green Bay. A lot of non-Packers fans really like to ask that question, and even Packers fans as well.
We
And
feel
I
your
mean,
pain on that one too, Bills Mafia. We feel the pain on that one too.
yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I think with the room we have right now, it's, like you said earlier, with the offensive line, we have so much depth there. And so I think it's kind of a good problem to have, not knowing who that wide receiver one is. Some people would say it is a problem that, we should try, trading for a T. Higgins, someone like that,
Brandon
to be
Ayuk.
our wide receiver one. Yeah, the bona fide stud. But I think all these guys are still ascending. And I mean, these guys did, Reed and Wick specifically. All they did last year was as rookies. So they're only going to get better. And so, as far as the Wicks hype, I'm absolutely buying the Wicks hype. Now, do I think he's going to be wide receiver one next year, as a second year player that was, a fifth round pick last year? I'm not completely sure. But um, I do think that, any of those four guys could be the wide receiver one. If I had to guess, I would predict in a recent episode, I predicted that Watson could finish as this year's wide receiver one. If he stays healthy, I think they're hopefully figuring out the hamstring problems there. And if he stays healthy, I think he is an absolute stud. I think he will finish as their wide receiver one. But if he's, on and off the field again, I think it, you know, could be any of those three. And, certainly the dark horse is Dontavian Wicks. And I'm absolutely, very excited to see him play and continue to develop, because I think he has the skill set, as a separator to be that wide receiver one in the future. And I mean, he's already drawn, some praise from the coach, from the quarterback. Jordan Love said, quote, "I think he will have a monster year." So, I mean, the quarterback likes him, the coach likes him, and he's even drawn some comparisons to Devontae Adams, who was, kind of their former star wide receiver one. So
I think it also depends on how you define wide receiver one. Like if it's just the receiver that you go to the most, or is it that true X wide receiver who's outside the numbers, big fast guy? Like, if that's what you're looking for in your wide receiver one, then or like in the Bills case, our wide receiver one is most likely going to be Khalil Shakir in the slot. That's not really the outside typical wide receiver one spot,
Yeah. As far as what Cheese Talk says there, hot take, Packers have the deepest wide receiver room in the league. I don't even think that's a hot take. I think they do have the deepest wide receiver room in the league. And I mean, Bo Melton is the perfect example of that. He came out of nowhere off the practice squad and was their best wide receiver over the last couple games of the year. So, I mean, I think they have so many guys that, I mean, Bo Melton certainly is another guy that could finish as a wide receiver one. I don't think he will, but I mean, it's possible. And yeah, like you said about the, what a wide receiver one is. I mean, a lot of people outside of Green Bay would say Jaden Reed, finished as their wide receiver one production wise last year. He could be that guy this year. He is a smaller guy. I think he can play outside, but he is more of the smaller slot receiver. And so if you're talking about the big X, that's absolutely Christian Watson for sure, without a doubt. Yeah. But, as far as production, I mean, Jaden Reed absolutely is going to give you production. So it's really
that's why like with the Bills, I'm totally comfortable with them not having the X outside guy being their wide receiver one, because at the end of the day, it's about production. It's about who's going to get you points, who's going to score touchdowns in the red zone. And I think if you figure that out, then call him my wide receiver 19. I don't care, as long as he's getting me touchdowns.
Yep, 100%.
Okay, so the next one for you is one player/player group that you're going to be keeping an eye on as training camp starts up.
Well, I've addressed this in a recent podcast episode as well, and Cheese Talk Pod also asked this question: do you think Stokes makes a good comeback this year? And my position group would be the cornerback room there for the Packers. I think, and the player in particular is Eric Stokes. I want to see him, make that comeback. I really was impressed with what he did his rookie season, and I think it'd be nice if he can continue to build on it. Didn't look great to start his second season, and then got injured and has been injured, the end of that year, and then basically all of last season as well. So he's headed into, I'm not even sure, his third or fourth year. And I am very excited to see what he can do. All reports say he's in the best shape of his life. Of course, that's what most reports say this time of year, but I'm very excited to see what he can do for sure, and I hope he can make that comeback. Obviously, it's too early to tell at this point.
Yeah, right on. Okay, so we'll flip the tables now, and kind of those questions coming back at you, but from a Bills side. So how do you think the Bills offseason is going? What do you think about the Bills team this year, and kind of your takes on our draft, and kind of what you think is going on in Orchard Park.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I'm not extremely excited about what about the Bills' chances this year. I do like a fair amount of players on their team, Josh Allen being one of them. But I think, the loss of Diggs certainly is going to hurt a little bit. And, Tre'Davious White, he wasn't on the field a lot. When he was on the field, he was really good. Now, you did trade for Rasul Douglas, got him from the Packers last season, and I think he's very much, a stud that can help you out there at cornerback. But as far as the team overall, um, I think they'll be solid. I don't think they're quite in the position to go, Super Bowl run. Um, but I think they have a solid team, and I think they can, hopefully replace, Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs, with, kind of a group, collective effort. I think maybe Kincaid can take a step forward. Samuel, I'm pretty high on, and of course you got Keon Coleman coming in, and Khalil Shakir, from last year, and he really came on towards the end of last season as well. And I'm pretty high on him. So I think you'll have a pretty good season, make the playoffs and everything, potentially win the division. But I'm not sure it's quite the build, for a Super Bowl run. But I think it'll be a very good team next season.
Yeah, I'm kind of along the same lines. Instead of trading back in the draft and getting Keon Coleman, I would have preferred us to trade up in the draft and go get what was his name, Brian Thomas Jr. When Jacksonville took him at the 21st pick, I was like, that was within striking distance of us to move up and go and actually get him.
For sure.
But it is what it is. I mean, Keon Coleman, King Showtime asks here, any news of how Keon Coleman is progressing? I haven't heard much yet. They're starting their training camp this week, so we'll see more. I mean, from the clips that we've seen, he's a great locker room guy. Everyone loves his presence, and
for sure,
he looks like he's kind of like a guy who'll catch anything. He's doesn't look like he drops many balls, which is something that will definitely help out Allen. It's going to be kind of how quickly can they all get on the same page? Because oftentimes, obviously, scrambling is such a big part of Allen's game. And oftentimes when he was scrambling, he was just looking for 14 and just trying to find Diggs. And wherever Diggs was, you knew that that's where the ball was going. So hopefully he can develop that relationship with at least one of our guys. If it's Kincaid, Coleman, Shakir, whoever it is, maybe it's James Cook out of the backfield. But as long as he just has one person that he can be that safety release valve for Allen, then I think we'll be okay. Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, I can see some of my own bias, but I definitely think we're a double-digit win team. We're 11, 12 wins probably. I think we can take the division, and ultimately host a playoff game, which I think is what we'll be doing this year. Speaking of, what do you have for your season projections? What do you think your record will be, and where do you see yourself finishing? And you guys are in a really tough division, I think, with Detroit playing as well as they do. And so kind of what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I think it's going to be very much very competitive as to, who wins the division between, Detroit and Green Bay. But as far as record predictions go, I'm not sure if I actually have come up with kind of my, official prediction looking at the record at the schedule and everything. But I would say, between 11 and 12 wins is feasible for next season. Could be more, could be less. I think that's kind of the way a lot of, serious fans would put the Packers. And so I don't want to be, too optimistic. I know there's, a lot of hype out there that they could, go to the Super Bowl. Everyone's, dark horse candidate to win the Super Bowl. I mean, that would be great. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not sure we're quite there yet. Definitely, we still, have, one of the youngest, maybe still the youngest team in the league. So, yeah, it should be interesting to see what happens. I'm just along for the ride. I really like the team. With a young team like this, they're a lot of fun to watch, and so it's gonna be fun for sure.
So there's one for you from Hot Take City. Do you think you sweep your division? Because that's another sneaky team in your division. There's the Chicago Bears.
Yep,
You
for
might
sure.
if Caleb Williams comes in looking like C.J. Stroud did last year, like that's also a very tough 2 games for you guys this year, on top of the
Hmm.
the Lions and
Yeah,
Vikings there as well. Yeah.
yeah. No, I don't think we're gonna sweep the division. The division is definitely getting a lot better than it was at some points. I mean, we certainly have a chance to do that. I think we can beat the Bears both times and the Vikings both times without too much of an issue. But I think the Lions will probably beat us at least once. As far as Caleb Williams goes, I talked about this a little bit in my last episode, but um, I mean, I don't think he's going to be CJ Stroud. I mean, CJ Stroud had basically a historically great rookie season as a rookie quarterback. It's possible. It's certainly possible, and I am not going to sit here and say, "Oh, Caleb Williams is a bust. He's trash, whatever." I'm not going to be that guy, but um he's a rookie. I think he's going to have some bumps in the road. I think he is the real deal. I think he can be a franchise guy, but I think, his rookie year, he's going to have some bumps in the road. And I think the Bears could potentially, beat the Packers at least once. But yeah, I'm not totally convinced he's just going to go out there and set the world on fire in year one.
Yeah, as far as rookie quarterbacks go, you're far more likely to be Bryce Young than you are to be C.J. Stroud. Like
Yep.
it's, you know what I mean. It's very hard to do what C.J. Stroud did last year. So
100%.
and then Cowboy Reg says, I have the Packers winning the division. I think the Lions take a step back. Love is the real deal. As a
Love it.
Cowboys fan, I think that's pretty high praise to give the Packers.
Yeah.
So, anyways, we will move on to our next segment. It is called Standing on Business. So, this is where we kind of give some hot takes, as it seems to be the term these days. And then we'll kind of have an open discussion, open it up. The first thing, and I've kind of started feeling this way a couple weeks ago, just in interactions I've had on Twitter, but I really think that Jordan Love is becoming the most overrated quarterback in the league. What do you think of that?
Well, I mean, as a Packers fan, I don't necessarily like to hear that. But I would say he is certainly getting a lot of hype. Now, I do think he is going to live up to the hype. But, it is fair to say he's overrated, by a lot, just by what people are saying. I mean, saying that the Packers are going to, win the Super Bowl in, year 2 of him starting, that's starting to be a little bit much for sure. You don't want to. I'm not looking to set too many high expectations, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think they can continue to kind of take that next step and get a little better next year. I think Jordan Love has the potential to be a top quarterback in this league, potentially, make a run at, MVP or something next year. That's certainly within the realm of possibility. I don't think he'll take a step back or anything. I think he continues to get better. But again, it's hard to tell. It's every year is different.
Yeah. That's
in
kind
the
of
NFL.
where I was thinking is like you got to give him the credit for doing what he did in Dallas last
Yeah,
year in the
absolutely.
playoffs. But it's a little bit early to be crowning him like the next, he's going to be the next Super Bowl champion or whatever. Like he had a good second half of the season, and it's not to say that he's not great or he's not a good quarterback or whatever,
Hmm.
but to put him in a top 5 list or top 3 or anything like that, I think is a little bit crazy. If he plays this season as well as he finished last season, which I don't
Yep.
see any reason why he wouldn't, um, then I think it's fair to start saying, okay, now he's in that top 5 to 7 range of quarterbacks in the league. But I just feel like we need to see
Yep.
a little bit more out of him before we start kind of doing anything like that with Jordan Love.
Yep. No, that makes sense.
Okay, so the next one it's more of a question I'll ask you. Is who's your top 3 quarterbacks of all time?
Sorry, what did you say again?
Your top 3 quarterbacks of all time. Like I feel like
Okay.
Brady's everybody's
Yep.
number 1, but we'll see what you got.
All right. Well, to be fair, um I don't look a ton at I don't know. I guess I'm not big into the history, of the NFL. I
Yeah.
certainly have looked at it at times, but as from I haven't really dove deep myself. I've kind of just gone on what I hear from other people, whatever.
Mhm.
But I would certainly put, I think Mahomes is in that top 3. I really do. And if I had to uh, say a random top 3, I would probably go with Brady, Mahomes, and Montana.
Okay, that's fair.
But that's just me.
Yeah. Okay, so then what about currently playing then? Who's your top 3
All right.
quarterbacks in the league right
Yeah.
now?
I'd go Mahomes, obviously, and then I'd say Josh Allen and Joe Burrow after that.
Okay, right on. Because that was going to be my next one. Is
Okay.
Josh Allen is quarterback 2 in the league. He's the second best quarterback in the league. I feel like that's not that controversial of a take. It seems to get a
Hmm.
lot of reaction when you say that because people
Hmm.
put him below both Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson. What are your thoughts on Lamar Jackson? Because you didn't have him in your top 3. You went
Yeah.
Burrow over Jackson.
I'll be honest, I'm not a huge Jackson fan. I don't think
And that's
at
why you're
this
on the show.
point.
That's why you're on the show today. We're not huge fans of Lamar Jackson
Yeah.
over here.
Yeah, there you go. No, I he's obviously a remarkable talent. I don't feel like he quite has that maturity as a leader when the game gets big. Whenever he gets into the playoffs, I feel like, he really the Ravens were not playing winning style football like they were in the regular season. I mean, their game plan was completely thrown off in that game against the Chiefs. And I thought they really had a shot at winning that game, but Lamar Jackson really tried to just do too much, I feel like, and was airing the ball out a lot. And, just be Brock Purdy. That's really all you have to be. Be that system guy, play within the system, and, make all the right reads, all the right throws, and just put together a good drive. You don't have to, be the hero and do everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So one last thing here for you. I don't know who you consider to be your biggest rival, but here's your chance to talk shit to your biggest rival. We'll give you whatever 10 seconds to say whatever you need. I don't know who it is, but tell them why the Packers are better.
I mean, it's probably got to be the Bears. I think for most Packers fans, it is. Um, I mean, hey, we own the Bears, obviously. And so Aaron Rodgers has said it. Jordan Love has kept that ownership going. We have not lost to the Bears in some time. Jordan Love is officially undefeated against the Chicago Bears. And we're looking to keep that up this season. And have fun with Caleb Williams, your rookie quarterback, and everything. I mean, hey, he's a fun player, and I think a lot of Bears fans are like, "Oh, he's going to be so great. We're gonna sweep the Packers right away. We're so much better than everyone else now." Yeah, whatever. Give it a few years. We'll see what happens. But no, we absolutely own the Bears for sure.
Right on. Awesome, man. So again, tell us where we can find you. Tell us where all your shows are, all your social medias, all that kind of good stuff, and then we'll then I'll wrap up the show.
Yeah, well, hey, it was great being on here. Really appreciate you having me on. But you can find the show, the pod, at Spotify, Apple Podcast, among others. Audio platforms. We're basically everywhere. You would want to listen to podcasts, and also available on YouTube. So you can subscribe to the show there. And then follow me on X. It's where I do most of my work as far as social media, at CheeseHeadz_W. And you can follow me on places like Instagram and TikTok at CheeseHeadz_weekly.
Awesome. Thank you very much for joining me. I've just kind of started doing these hosting other podcasts and stuff like that. I'm having a blast. So absolutely thankful that you were able to join me today. Thanks everyone who listened and sent in your questions. Shout out to Hot Take City and Cowboy Reg, and thanks to everyone for watching. You can find me at Mafia Members Pod on all social media, and Mafia Members Podcast on YouTube and Spotify. Thank you all for joining. And we'll see you next time. Thanks, Landry.